Our coastline, our seas and our coastal communities have challenges, yes, but given the right vision, support and investment, they can be a national resource rather than a problem to solve.
Welcome to Political Sandbox by Chamber, and we're delighted today to welcome local MP in Sussex, SallyAnn Hart. Sally, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm SallyAnn Hart and I'm Member of Parliament for Hastings and Rye, beautiful Hastings and Rye.
As a frequent visitor, I can absolutely vouch for that. I can say that for a fact. Look, really interesting to have a conversation with you today, particularly as levelling up is such an important issue in the news agenda right now. But you've got a debate coming up in Westminster Hall when MPs return to Parliament in September. And as a former councillor myself for a local coastal community, I was really interested to see what you're looking to cover in that debate and what you're hoping to get out of it.
So I have lived around Hastings for a long time, sort of before I became an MP. I was a local district councillor and also a local magistrate. And for me, looking at the issues in coastal communities, getting children and families right, education is really fundamental. So it was when Chris Whitty did his report. So my lobbying for Hastings and Rye is on improving the transport, infrastructure, connectivity, skills, education, health. And when he produced his annual report last year, the 2021 annual report about the health disparities in coastal communities, I should have been appalled reading that report. Actually, I welcomed it because it was a really good platform that I could use to really lobby the government on behalf of my coastal community, Hastings and Rye. And then I was asked to chair the all-party parliamentary group on coastal communities. And it's really fascinating that coastal communities, they are different, they have their own challenges. One pot or one size doesn't fit all, but they have a commonality of factors which actually affects them all. And I think that's something that I would like to see the government addressing, perhaps in a national strategy. So this debate that I've asked and to have is about looking at those factors. You know, solving deprivation is key to levelling up coastal communities. So what do we need to do to solve deprivation? It's about transport infrastructure, it's about education, it's about health, and it's about playing on the strengths of coastal communities, what they have to offer.
I mean, seeing some of the transformations in coastal communities since, I was a councillor sort of 10 years ago, you go and visit a place up the coast from you in Margate, for example, and seeing significant amounts of investment coming in from the government in order to transform those communities. But do you think that money's being well targeted, and where do you see sort of future pots of money going to help really sort of level up those coastal communities?
So I have to say I've been to Margate and I did a talk there for South East Local Enterprise Partnership, and it was really fascinating. I think we have to look at yes, it's great to have the levelling up pots. It's great to have the Towns Fund pot that we've got for Hastings. But I look at the amount of money that's been spent in Hastings over the last 20 years. I think it's something like 590 million on capital projects. So they haven't built in the skills development or the training. And I do think that we need to have, rather than pots of money that have been competitive, are competitive, we need to look at long-term funding. So you need to have a strategic plan for local communities on how they're going to level up. And you need to look at long-term funding from government to do that. So public sector can provide the pump prime funding, the seed funding that leverages in private sector funding. And I think that's something we've really got to look at as well, is how best spend the money in order to level up. It's not just about investing in capital project. It's got to be about skills, about job creation, and that sort of thing. And the cultural side has been brilliant, but it's not enough.
Absolutely. So just down the coast from you, Tim Lawton, for example, has been calling for a equilibrium, I suppose, to be created between funding that's being given to northern communities and those in coastal communities. I think he's called it his Coastal Challenge Fund. So in terms of the debate that's going on at the moment with the leadership, I mean, it's a good opportunity to think about what levelling up means for all communities around this country. Yeah. Have you seen a bit of a shift with the debates that are going on at the moment with the Conservative Party around how levelling up is being redefined to meet certain needs of certain communities?
I think that, so I'm also chair of the all-party parliamentary group for Southeast, for the Southeast. So one of the things, we recently published a report on the levelling up, and you know, we don't want the Southeast to be left behind. And I think that we need to level up all parts of the country. But just because the Southeast is particularly affluent, it doesn't mean to say there aren't levels of deprivation within the Southeast. So you can't regionalise it. You've got to look at local areas more with a microscope, saying, well, okay, so let's say Hastings, East Sussex is not particularly affluent anyway, the whole of East Sussex, but the Southeast is affluent. So you've got to be a little bit more granular and use more granular data and target the finances where it's most needed in order to level up. I mean, I think levelling up is about levelling up individuals, about levelling up families, about levelling up communities and creating equality of opportunity. That is what it is, what levelling up is. So how do we do that? You might need to invest more in skills. So East Sussex, for example, is now an education investment area, and Hastings is a priority education investment area. That is fantastic. You know, that's something that I've been lobbying for. But it's not just about education. We've got to look at transport infrastructure and connectivity. So it really is about levelling up so many things.
Yeah, I'm really pleased you picked up upon that granularity point there, because, you know, as someone who's an MP in a city like Bath, the impression is that clearly, universally, it's a very affluent area, but there are huge pockets of deprivation where, you know, 1 in 5 children would live in poverty. And you give that example around how funding is allocated. One of the things that we've been doing on the Levelling Up Commission that Sir Robert Buckland has been chairing is looking at how maybe that funding that's often given at a regional basis can be given using that data to wards or much smaller polling districts. So I don't know if that would end up making a difference to the residents in Hastings and Rye.
Yes, because we've got wards in Hastings and St Leonard's, and even in Hugh Merriman's constituency next door in Bexhill, there's Sidley. So there are areas that we could really do with some levelling up. But I do think that the white paper, Michael, the Levelling Up Regeneration white paper, it does look at localism and creating, making it about local communities. And I also think it's not just about money. You know, we have to make a little go a lot further now. So it's about partnership working, and it's about, you know, working together as communities and getting that support from government, whether it's through national policy or through funding. But it really is about partnership working and how can we make less money go further.
So SallyAnn, one of the things you've been calling for is a cross-governmental departmental task force to look at the issues impacting the coastal communities. So what sort of response have you had from the government on this?
So this is one of the reasons why I want this debate in September, because I've been asking for a coastal minister, a strategy for a national strategy for our coastal communities, and a cross-departmental government task force. It's because of the commonality of factors that coastal communities have. And I think it's really important that it's about the unleashing of the potential of our coastal communities. If we have a real focus on them, they could be a national resource rather than a problem to solve.
That's great. I mean, the last thing I wanted to ask you really is something that I felt as a minor issue sort of 10, 15 years ago, which was the impact of coastal flooding. And in my old ward, you know, we were talking about some of those preparations all those years ago, but it was a very rare occurrence. Based on some of the work that the all-party parliamentary group has been doing, that you chair, and also some of the other activities by other coastal MPs, clearly the issue is becoming more and more important as we see the climate changing overnight, really. So what's more can the government be doing to really tackle the issue of coastal flooding, protecting people's homes and their livelihoods?
Well, I think this is something that, you know, the government is looking at. I'm a great fan of nature-based solutions, so I'm I love nature-based solutions for mitigation climate change. Our coastline, our seas, our coastal communities have huge potential to help with mitigation of climate change. You know, if you restore and protect coastal habitats, for example, that can help mitigate flooding. You look at Wallasey Island, just off Essex there, they've really used nature-based solutions with the old salt marsh flats there to help mitigate against climate change. This again, you know, you can have ecotourism, you can have food, jobs, all centered around our coastal communities and what they can do to help mitigate against climate change. So I do think our coastal communities have been overlooked. They are can be a major national resource for us if they're given the right vision, the right investment and the right support. And I think then, rather than be a problem to solve, they're actually going to have a major impact on our social and economic growth. Actually, they've got unleashed potential that we should be looking at how we can maximise that potential in our coastal communities.
So let's unleash that potential then. It's summer holidays at the moment. Why should people come along and take their holidays in Hastings?
Because I've been out in Hastings today. I did a tour around the old town. We've got beautiful, clean, healthy air, stunning, we own history, wonderful history, amazing restaurants, fabulous ice cream parlours. I mean, what vineyards, beautiful countryside, incredible culture, Hastings contemporary. There is so much to do and enjoy in places like Hastings and Rye.
SallyAnn, thank you so much for giving up some time during a very busy recess. Look forward to watching your debate in September and keep in touch in respect to levelling up.
Thank you very much, Ben, and it's been a pleasure to speak to you.